Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Haxi Myers-Belkin. Our headlines this hour. Violence by our security forces is a betrayal of the new Zimbabwe. President Emmerson Mnangagwa vows to investigate violent repression of anti-government demonstrations in recent days. This as police continue to make arrests. We'll be speaking with our correspondent in Harare. As world leaders put aside their concerns about the highly contested victory of the Democratic Republic of Congo's new president, France 24's team in Kinshasa reports on how the powerful Catholic Church is squaring Felix Thisekedi's imminent inauguration with its belief the vote was flawed. And Italy's Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini accuses France of supporting chaos in Libya for financial gain. This one day after Italy's second Deputy Prime Minister said France was impoverishing Africa and fueling the flow of migrants to Europe. Thank you very much for joining us. Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa has said that, if necessary, heads will roll following investigations into what he termed unacceptable violence by his own security forces during an ongoing crackdown on economic unrest. Mnangagwa also calling for a national dialogue among political parties and civic leaders, in a move the opposition is dismissing as a gimmick to buy time. Officially, 12 people have been killed by security forces in recent days, but doctors fear that number could be much higher. Over 600 people have now been arrested in what the opposition is calling a brutal silencing of dissent. Well, for more on this story, we can cross live now to the Zimbabwean capital to speak with our correspondent there, Ryan Truscott. Ryan, Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa is promising that this deadly crackdown on protesters will be investigated fully. Are we really going to see a thorough investigation into these alleged crimes by Mnangagwa's own security services?
Well, that's what he says. And as you mentioned, he said that the violence and misconduct by the security forces was unacceptable and that if necessary, heads will roll. Some may question the president's sincerity given his and ZANU-PF's history. You'll recall that there was an army crackdown on August the 1st last year against protests in the wake of the presidential elections. An inquiry was held, but up until now, no soldier has been prosecuted for their role in those events. But on the other hand, Mnangagwa is keen to get his foreign investment for the country. To do that, he's got to show that he's doing things differently from his predecessor, Robert Mugabe, and not ruling with an iron fist. And if Mnangagwa wants the support of the international community, including their investment dollars and financial aid, he's going to have to prove that he's different, prove that he's a reformer. And that may be why he also mentioned today that political, civic and religious leaders here should begin a national dialogue.
Now, we know that hundreds of people have been arrested in recent days. We're also hearing reports that some injured people are choosing not to get the medical help they need for fear of being arrested at hospital. Are the police, as far as you know, still detaining people?
Yes, today we got news from rights lawyers that a group of 28 men was arrested during a police raid last night on a facility where these men were getting treatment for police and army beatings. They were taken off to a central police station. Rights lawyers say that that action was deplorable and inhuman. Arrests and beatings are said to be going on across the country. It appears that opposition Movement for Democratic Change officials are being targeted for arrest. At least 5 MPs are in custody at the moment, though they weren't actually picked up today. A number of local government councillors have also been picked up over the last few days. The government has accused the MDC of being behind last week's national shutdown, even though the strike was actually called by the main labour union, the ZCTU.
Now, there are rumours swirling that this crackdown comes at a moment of significant internal conflict within the ruling ZANU-PF party, and that there might even be moves to impeach President Mnangagwa. Is there any truth to these rumours as far as you're aware?
It's certainly a theory that's gaining traction here. For a long time, there have been rumours that there is a rift between President Mnangagwa and his Vice President, Constantino Chiwenga. He's the former Defence Forces chief who led the military takeover that ousted Mugabe 14 years ago. 14 months ago. But is there a rift? Might Chiwenga now want to oust Mnangagwa, perhaps by getting him impeached? We saw Chiwenga meeting Mnangagwa off the plane last night, and the body language between the two doesn't appear to show that there's any kind of animosity. On the other hand, there have been tweets from a couple of top ZANU-PF officials that appear to point to tensions within the party. So we just don't know at this stage. I think that what we can say is that it's a complex situation and that the tensions in Zimbabwe aren't over yet.
A very complex situation indeed. Ryan Truscott in Harare, thank you very much indeed for that update. The inauguration of the Democratic Republic of Congo's newly elected President Felix Thisekedi is set to take place in the coming days, but the opposition candidate continues to reject the results. Martin Fayulu says that leaked election tallies by observers, including the powerful Catholic Church, prove that he won the election, with the international community now appearing unlikely to further challenge Thisekedi's victory. Our reporters in Kinshasa meet members of the Catholic Church who are wary about what the future holds.
Of all of the voices of protest during the Congolese elections, the Catholic Church was amongst the loudest. With some 35 million followers in every corner of this vast country, representing almost half of the population, the Church's unifying power goes beyond any political party. The Church used all of its influence to ensure the people's vote was respected. They say they deployed 40,000 election observers, and they maintain that the wrong man has been named president.
If the Church doesn't believe what's been announced, they have to demand the truth, and nothing but the truth.
I think the Church did its job and kept within the limit of its authority. It couldn't go beyond that.
The collective of Congolese Catholic laypeople coordinated protests against the Kabila government in 2017 and 2018. Since then, Thierry has had death threats and lives in hiding. He says the new president will have a short period of grace to win the trust of the people.
If during the first 100 days we continue the impunity, we continue the massacres left and right, we continue the arbitrary arrests, it will send the wrong signal and people will begin to doubt.
Senko is the powerful conference of Catholic bishops. The Archbishop of Kinshasa is invited to the presidential inauguration, but he hasn't yet given his blessing.
It's an invitation and not a summons. That would be abandoning our convictions.
And he has a message for the new president.
I fear strongly the same system will continue with the new president. The only message is for him not to forget where he comes from. He comes from the people, and the people are suffering. He mustn't forget the struggle of the people.
Throughout this election, the Catholic Church has made its voice heard, and the people have been listening. As the new president prepares to take power, they've made it clear this powerful institution will be watching his every move.
The former director of Cameroon's state-owned Cameroon radio television organisation appeared before Yaoundé's Special Criminal Court this Tuesday to learn that his trial has been adjourned to the 1st of March. Amadou Vamouké has been in detention for 2 years, accused of misusing public funds. The group Reporters Without Borders has asked a UN working group on arbitrary detention to examine the case. Our correspondent in Yaoundé, Indira Eteng, attended that court hearing in the Cameroonian capital.
Amadou Vamouké was sacked in June 2016, and 1 month later he was sent to jail. Since he was locked up in Yaoundé, he has appeared before the Special Criminal Tribunal 16 times. All 16 times, the case lasted just a few minutes and then it was adjourned. This time around, the matter has been adjourned to the 1st of March 2019. Human rights groups have added their voices to that of Reporters Without Borders to call for the release and an immediate end to the trial of Amadou Vamouké, who is also a journalist and former general manager of the CRTV. It should be noted that the case has been dragging for a little over 2 years.
Now, France doesn't want to bring peace to Libya because chaos benefits France's oil interests in the country. That's the latest provocation directed at France by a senior Italian politician, in this case, Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini. A source at the office of the French president has dismissed the attack as ludicrous. This latest spat comes one day after France summoned Italy's ambassador after Salvini's fellow Deputy Prime Minister Luigi Di Maio accused Paris of being largely responsible for mass migration to Europe from Africa. Nicolas Germain has the story.
The French government called them unacceptable comments. They were made by Italy's Deputy Prime Minister Luigi Di Maio. He accused France of colonizing Africa, of making it poorer, and therefore of encouraging migrants to leave the continent.
There are dozens of African countries where France is printing a currency of its own, the franc of the colonies. And with that currency, French debt is financed. If France didn't have African colonies, which it's impoverishing, it would be the 15th world economic power.
The French central bank guarantees the CFA franc. Paris argues that the currency brings stability to the 14 African countries that use it. Most of them are former French colonies. But its critics, like here in Benin, say having the CFA franc means those nations are not free to choose their economic policies.
Europe is gradually starting to understand how France has become rich and powerful thanks to Africa. Jobs and industries are not created in Africa, raw materials are not processed in Africa, and that is why migrants cross the Mediterranean and hope to find work in France.
On Tuesday, Italy's Interior Minister stoked up tensions between Paris and Rome in Africa. He claimed France did not want to bring peace to Libya because its oil interests there clashed with those of Italy. But the Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte later downplayed the incident. He said it did not call into question the historic friendship between Italy and France.
That brings us to the end of this edition of Eye on Africa. Thank you very much for watching. Do stay tuned, there's more world news coming up with Mark Owen.
France 24, 4 news channels in 4 languages, 430 journalists, 35 nationalities, 160 bureaus around the world, a global reach. 355 million households and over 180 countries can watch France 24. 61 million viewers watch the channel every week, and the numbers are constantly growing, with audience figures up by 31%. France 24 online is also forging ahead. Over 18 million visits a month on France24.com. With 45 million videos viewed online, France 24 is a leader on YouTube, while our 37 million Facebook and Twitter followers make us France's #1 channel on social media. To our constantly growing community of viewers, thank you.